Remember, we don't have a lot of the senses necessary to take in the information that we would need to understand. And because we don't have these senses, we don't have the brain structures to interpret the data that we may be getting in.
I thought my chef and that belly of yours looks like a nice place to bury it.
Well, howdy, howdy, howdy. Nearly Senior Citizen here. Greetings, boys, girls, and all of our non-binary friends, and welcome to this, a brand new day. Hokey smokes. Yesterday, I was an idiot, and I paid the price. Goodness gracious, I know that I have issues with gluten. If I eat wheat, I'm in trouble, and I fall asleep, I have bad bloating, and I have brain fog. So I know if I eat gluten products, well, anything with wheat, I'm gonna be in trouble. So yesterday, I had for breakfast half a box of graham crackers. I fell into a gluten coma. Well, it wasn't breakfast, it was lunch. I fell into a gluten coma, and when I woke up, I suffered brain fog, horrible brain fog for hours afterward. I knew what I was doing, I did it anyway, yay. And of course, front-loading of videos. Hey, if you could toss me a like, that'd be very cool. If you could subscribe to the channel, that'd be awesome. If you could leave me a comment, I love comments. I read every one of them. Thumbs up each one I do, which again is all of them. And I answer as many as my executive dysfunction will allow. Thumbs up, and of course, I would like to thank each and every one of my Patreon patrons. These literally beautiful and literally awesome people are, in fact, literally beautiful and literally awesome for helping to keep me and my pets alive. My little kitty cat likes being alive, my little hamster likes being alive, and quite frankly, I like being alive. Thank you, each and every one of these people. If you could become one of these beautiful people, that'd be very cool. Links are in the video description, wherever that happens to be. Yay, front loading of videos over. Thumbs up for that. So yeah, yesterday was great in that fashion. Oh well though. One of the reasons, I've mentioned before how my early part of my day takes a long time. Like until about 1 o'clock, even unmedicated, the front part of my day, it doesn't go, 1 minute takes 1 minute. In an 8 hours in the first half of the day, it'll take what feels like about 6 hours. And then from about 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock feels like it takes like 2 or 3 hours. And then from 6 o'clock on, my evening just goes whoosh and then is gone, and I'm off to bed and feels like moments. But that's just time blindness, because when I do go out for walkies though, my evening is shot, because I start preparing to go for walkies anywhere from like 5 o'clock on, and with my head I get distracted a lot. And so by the time I'm physically ready to go walkies, it may be 6 or 6:30. And then I've got to tank up on THC for pain and mobility. And then next thing I know, it's like 7:30. Sometimes 8 o'clock when I'm out on the road. And I still get back around 10. So from 5 o'clock until 10 o'clock, I'm busy and getting ready to go walkies, and then I'm on walkies, and then I'm coming back from walkies, and then I'll be here from like anywhere from 9 or 10 o'clock onward, and my battery is like at 10% charge. I've only got 1 or 2 spoons left. There's stuff I'd like to do, but I can't. And then the next day it all starts over again. So thumbs up for that. So yeah, the first part of my day goes by pretty slow, and then it goes whoosh, and then wham, it's over. However, I do have an appointment with my med manager on the 14th, just a few days from now, and I'm going to talk with her about the fact that I can't take Ritalin anymore, and I'm having troubles keeping my blood pressure down now. Luckily, I also have an appointment to see the Veterans Administration, my primary care provider, and I'm going to be talking about all these things. Because hokey smokes, I need to get my blood pressure back down to where it was. Silent killer indeed. Past that, it's just been life. Now, there have been some things that I have read and heard about, and one of them was, I can't find the statistics or the law anymore, but it's the talk about how X number of people do things but only a smaller number of people reap the rewards of it. Like X number of people do it, but then only X number of people get the rewards. Is not the same as like the Pareto thing, which is the 80-20 rule, which is, 80% of all the effort comes from 20% of whatever. It depends on what the effort is. It depends on if it's people or what. Now, I'll explain further so that actually makes more sense. It's like if you have 100 people together and you're telling them to get work done, move rocks from one side of the field to the other, you're going to find that 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. So out of those 100, these 20 people are going to do as much work as these 80 people. That's one of the reasons that mobile games are so horrible with money. Because number one, whales, people with money that'll spend $1,000 in a day, or 2,000 or 3,000 and not care, these are people that they want. And they only need a couple to pay for things, because once again, 20% of the people is 80% of the money. So when a free game is out there, the 20% of the people that pay more than the remaining 80% of the players. Now here's where the problem breaks down, because I was looking online for this, and you got the people that are motivational types that say with the 80-20 rule, 20% of the results comes from 80% of this. That means you need to focus on the 20%. The problem is the 80-20 rule doesn't stop. Once you start to focus on that 20%, 80% is still here, and there's still this 20% is more than this 80%. That's why they love whales and mobile gaming again, because you divided out this 20%. Let's say they spend $10,000 altogether you'll make. So 20% of that, of the people, of 100 people, we'll call it 1,000. 1,000 people will get $10,000 a day. So that's 80% of them. 8,000 of them spend less than the other 20%. Well, what's 80% of 10,000? What, 8,000? So 20% of the people spend $8,000. If you cut that down further, because the rule still applies, of those 20%, 20% pay 80%. And the remaining 80% of those whales pay less than these 20%. So you can cut your focus down further. And the rule still applies. When you break it down even further, it's still true. 20% of that 20% of that 20% still does 80%. So when you try to break stuff down on your own, remember that that rule still applies. You can't just focus it down and then it's done. It is far too granular. That 80-20 rule still applies. And it applies in everything. It's kind of weird and frightening. Thumbs up for that. But I like to pass stuff on that I read and hear and watch. And this is another one where on the international front, there's a real quick thing about current events. It doesn't matter on the international stage what happens with Russia and Ukraine right now. Even if Russia crushes Ukraine and occupies them, Russia lost the war in the first 72 hours. Because they are no longer, and they have proved themselves to not be a near-peer power anymore. They're not on the level of the United States. They're not on the level of China. They're not on the level of the major players, well, the top players. They have proven themselves to be a major player, but not a superpower player. And that has crushed their future and for decades to come. No matter what happens, they lost the war. Wars aren't just for territory and stuff. That's largely a small part of it. It is the power. It is showing that you have power. It is pushing somebody around to show everybody else around you that you're not to be trifled with. Russia has proved they are not that kind of player. Their reputation has been damaged for decades. Their economy has been crushed for decades. They are going to be, no matter what happens, in a lot of trouble. And in fact, A lot of countries may start taking back a lot of these smaller places around. Japan, as I learned watching this video, has lost a lot of small islands to Russia over the decades. If Russia has proved that they're stretched thin and they can't hold things, do you think Japan might take those territories back? And if Japan takes some territories back, or some country starts taking some of their territories back, and Russia can't stop it, do you think some of these other countries might start taking some of their territories back too? Because after all, Russia right now is having to use reservists for its army. And as been pointed out, reservists in Russia aren't like reservists in the US. In the United States, you do a weekend a year. You do training. You get into uniform. You go to bases. You do your job. You're not doing it as well as somebody who does it daily, but you're still learning and training and showing that you can do stuff. In Russia, when you get out, you're out. So when you get re-enlisted and brought back in, they have to start from scratch. They're in trouble. And of course, I also want to come back to when it comes to fiction stuff, because I was thinking about this on the whole cosmic horror thing and how cosmic horror doesn't have to be huge. Cosmic horror really only has to fit it's a one criteria that's broken down into a whole bunch of pieces. I've talked about this a lot, but because it's a big point of my focus and my interest, I keep bringing it up. But for something to be cosmic horror, it just has to be something, some object, a person, location, or situation that we as human beings simply cannot understand. It just has to exist or be doing something in a fashion that we'll never be able to figure out. And it has to be doing it with little or no interest in human life or safety. If you can fit those three criteria, you are at the very least in existential horror and probably up in cosmic horror. But remember, cosmic horror doesn't have to be world-threatening. H.P. Lovecraft wrote the story The Color Out of Space, where it was just a family that got wiped out by something that was a cosmic horror. The movie with Nicolas Cage wraps up a bit more, is a bit wilder, a bit crazier, but still the same thing. It wipes out a family. It does damage to the town, it hurts the people around, it's going to be remembered, but it really only wiped out a small number of people. Now, somebody did write an actual sequel called The Color Out of Time, which I've never fully read. I'd like to. But point being, cosmic horror does not have to be something that is world-threatening. It just has to be a thing or being, an object. Well, that's a being. A thing, a being, a location, or a situation. Just existing or doing something in a fashion we can't understand, with little or no regard for our safety or lives. That's why I do want to see the movie Annihilation. I have watched a lot of breakdowns on it. I have watched clips here and there. I don't like, from what I have seen, how the main character wins with the facing off of the big thing at the end. It seems way too, oh gosh, look, I solved a puzzle sort of thing. And with everything that they have been facing up to that point, that seems just wrong, because this is true cosmic horror. It is something that is happening that we can't understand. And of course, once again, I just want to stress why in my fictional setting with the Inside, Outside, and Razor's Edge, these people are more suited for the places that they live. One of the reasons we have trouble with cosmic horror isn't just the knowledge of all that. Remember, we don't have a lot of the senses necessary to take in the information that we would need to understand. And because we don't have these senses, we don't have the brain structures to interpret the data that we may be getting in. And because we don't have those senses and we don't have the structures to interpret the data, we don't have the brain structures to contextualize that data into a worldview that makes sense. So literally, our brains are trying desperately to understand something that it literally cannot. And that will break your brain. But the people on the inside and the outside, one of the things that comes up with this story, I've talked about it before, these people do have extra universal chromosomes. And this is this extra universal energy that every single living person in this double set of universes has. But not everybody's extra universal chromosomes express. These are extra universal. They are of a slightly higher wavelength, a slightly higher frequency, so it doesn't occupy the same physical space. But these people have extra senses to be able to sense 10% more than a normal human being can. And because of this, they have extra universal brain structures to interpret that data properly, and extra universal brain structures to contextualize it. And even though they are not physically present, and thus not an actual physical part of their bodies, there is still free back and forth communication. They have these brain structures necessary, but they're not actually a physical part of them because it's extra universal energy with their extra universal chromosomes that manage to express. And then you've got the site with the receptors, or the cryptid site, or any other of these wild and crazy things. And I've opened up 24 hours worth of comments in my community tab. I'm going to go through and thank how many people have left me comments in the past 24 hours. That's never many, but that's anything more than 0 is awesome, so thank you. And if I mispronounce a username, no disrespect is intended. And even though I count American Sign Language, well, my depression fibro, where I am on the ASD spectrum, which uses the word spectrum twice, I think, but still, there we go. I'm sometimes lucky I can remember anything at all. So we have A. Bay Shelby, thumbs up and thank you. Confused L29, always good to see you in the comments. We have Samara R, thumbs up and thank you. There is Devin French, thumbs up. Cry of Fear, I cannot remember. I'll take a look at the game Cry of Fear. And then we have, did I already thank Jesse Koskinen? Thumbs up and thank you. There is Rayan Khan, thumbs up. Guggenbeller, thumbs up and thank you. We have Flora Mew, always good to see you in the comments. And there is Jay with 2 Y's, greatly appreciated. Robert Bit Silly, thumbs up. And Ben B, greatly appreciated, good to see you. We have Ash Crow, verified by PayPal, thumbs up. Ice Damon, excuse me, a burp. And that is it. 12 people who left me comments in the past 24 hours. Thumbs up. You get me out of my head and into the world and dealing with real people. Greatly appreciated. My whiskers are poking into my nostril right here. The edge of my nostril. The nares, if you're into medical terms. But hey, with my hands in the air, don't know what device you're watching this on, so I don't know where the video description is, but inside there are links to all of my channels, as well as my Twitter, my Facebook, my Patreon, and again, I would like to thank each and every one of my Patreon patrons. These literally beautiful and literally awesome people are, again, literally beautiful and literally awesome. I know my kitty cat would thank you if she could. I know little Ghost, my hamster, would thank you if he could, and I can thank you for all 3 of us, so thank you very much. It is appreciated to no end. And if you would like to help me out without becoming a patron, I have a PayPal link somewhere in that description. As well as if you'd like to help me out without sending money at all, there's an Amazon wishlist link where hopefully I've got stuff like cat food on it. So thumbs up on that. A very good thing indeed. And of course, if you could, I've forgotten where the words are in my head. If you could hit the notification, if you could toss me a like, I appreciate all the positive validation I get, and if you could hit the notification bell on the subscription button, that would be very cool. Definitely a thumbs up on that. Well, holy smokes, because of my gluten coma and the way that I become time blind as the day goes by, I didn't get much done yesterday that I really would like to have gotten done. Don't should on yourself, please. So hopefully you can get done the things that you need to get done. Hopefully I can get done at least some of the things that I need to get done. That would be cool. Definitely a thumbs up on that. Holy smokes. And of course, with the Covfefe bug raging, please, you know the precautions. Just be smart. You don't want to catch it. You don't want to pass it on. And it's still happening. I watched this one YouTuber, Mr. Craven, plays horror games. He just moved to Scotland. Guess what? He's got it now. Be careful. You don't need to suffer from this. So, until we meet again, you take care. Have a great day today. I will see you on the flip side, and quite frankly, I think that is a very good idea.